morning, everyone. Really quick update. I'm sorry I haven't gotten any videos out to you. I did film a video and then forgot to post it, so I'll take some footage from that and sort of put it in here. But this is just going to be a really quick garden update tour about what's happening. Not a lot's changed since that video, except that the deer have gone a little bit more crazy. They did eat the tops of some of my tomatoes that were running here behind the fence, the sidewalk garden. They did top those, and that's all right. You know, it just stops them from growing, so they're not going to produce anymore, but you know, it is what it is. And in the process of them doing that, they trampled my cucumbers, so it's unlikely I will get more cucumbers this year, but that's all right again. It's fine. I did harvest all my potatoes, and I didn't get video of that, but I did get a little bit of a harvest. I think my beds need to be a lot deeper to get more harvest. So I'm definitely going to probably move to grow bags next year, just because I don't have the space necessarily to go bigger. So that'll be a shift I make. But everything else is pretty much the same. The squash, of course, are going crazy. They do have squash vine borer, but I've been doing surgery and trying to get the grubs out as much as I can find and save what I've got. They got into the pumpkins pretty bad. I have one pumpkin vine that may or may not survive, but everything else is going really well. I've got summer squash just coming out of my ears as usual, and tomatoes are just starting to come in. My sunrise bumblebees are the very first ones that have given me any tomatoes, so that's exciting. And the other ones are laden with tomatoes. They're just not ripe yet, so I'm hoping that we will get ripe in the next week. And so keep in mind that this garden is only 236 square feet of growing space, and it does not get more than 5 hours of sun in its sunniest part, so it's pretty good. I've grown, I think I've weighed more than 40 pounds of, probably closer to 45 pounds now of harvest, and that is just from this little patch. I did forage a bit of, some berries, but other than that, everything else has come from this patch here, and it's stuff that's either being frozen or I'm making dinners out of it and freezing those, so it's great. I'm trying very hard to preserve what I have. Some of it's just too good and I don't want to preserve it. I just want to eat it right away. Like the peppers, I've gotten peppers like crazy, so I've been harvesting those before they get ripe. So I've been doing that every couple of days. I come out and pull some off and use them in salads and things like that. So yeah, everything else is pretty good. Ground cherries are pretty much done. I was gonna come out yesterday to get the load that I saw on the ground, and because I'd gotten some before, and the bunnies, I think, had gotten in there and eaten all the ones that had already fallen. So I should have gotten them, but I didn't have any space in my bowl, so and I didn't come back out. So I learned my lesson. Just go ahead and get another bowl right away before you lose that crop. But other than that, everything's good. The deer and the rabbits have been two of the pests that have been pretty persistent. The squash vine borer, of course. Aphids really haven't been a problem lately, which is great. And I haven't really gotten any mold or mildew on too many of my plants yet, so that's great. Yeah, we just haven't had a lot of rain, so I watered yesterday, but I hadn't watered in a while, just because I've got mulch on all the beds, and in hopes that will keep some of the moisture in, but it seemed pretty dry, so I went ahead and watered. So I'll just go over some of the things that are working and some of the things that are not working bit by bit, and just kind of give you an idea of what's happening in this very tiny garden. So here we go. So the first thing that worked this year was my squash patch. Last year, totally bombed because I think my compost was too hot, and I still have that problem up here in the hillside terrace beds, the brand new terraces. I think the compost was too hot because everything in those beds, not just the squash, just didn't do anything, didn't go anywhere. However, here is my squash patch right now. So as you can see, I have some really big runners. My pumpkins are running down the hill and across the yard. They're just huge. And if you don't subscribe to my Instagram page, you really should, because I post near daily updates on what's going on in this garden. I think a lot of people really want to tour my garden, but it's kind of a mess. I show you all the good stuff, but I never show you all the mess. Like this giant 4.6 pound zucchini that escaped my attention somehow. It was so well camouflaged with the stems that I didn't see it, and totally accidental. With the squash patch, let's get on with that. I need to put down my baseball bat here. I've actually had to start hand pollinating because some of my squashes were just dying on the vine. So if you don't know anything about squashes, a little recap, there are male flowers and female flowers on the same plant, and they can pollinate within the same plant, but you do have to get the pollen from the male flower to the female flower. And in years past, I've always had bees that did it. Well, apparently my bees are so absorbed with all the other flowers that are around that they don't even care about my squash. It wasn't until yesterday that I found 2 squash bees napping on the job. I found them in a male flower, these little stinkers. But those are the only 2 I've seen in any around these squash flowers at all. So I've had to hand pollinate. So I come out here early every morning and look at what's gonna be opening, and I'll actually open the flower up because I know it's gonna open that day, and I'll hand pollinate all the flowers that are gonna be opening that day. Generally I have between 2 and 5 females that need to be pollinated, and that's on a variety. I've got zucchini, I've got yellow squash, and the pumpkins and other squash, the winter squash. So between all of those, I generally have 2 to 5 female flowers that need to be pollinated each day. And sometimes I make a mistake and pollinate them with the wrong flower, because in this mess I can't see what's what. The vines are crossing. It's crazy here. It's really literally a jungle. The plants are 4.5 feet tall, and they're going at least 30 feet right now lengthwise. So it's gigantic, this patch. So that's the squash. Next is the flowers. As you can see, I've got tons of zinnias, and my sunflowers are just starting to pop. My borage has gone bonkers, and if you ever grow borage, you'll know that they kind of get top heavy and they sort of start to lean over. So I put some of those in trellises, like this one here. I don't know if you can see that. My tomato trellis, upside down tomato trellis that you can poke your eye out with. But I had to support the borage so that the bees could get to it. I didn't want it laying on the ground. It makes, 1, I can't see the flowers, and 2, the bees really don't want to go down there. So anyway, that's worked extremely well. So the flowers are going great here, as well as in of course, the catmint bed. I'm getting ready to give that a giant haircut soon. I did sort of prune as I went this season, but the bees were still all over it. So I just pruned off the spent stems here and there every day, which normally I just give it a shearing and go with that. So it's time for a big shearing right now. So I'll probably do that now that there's other flowers out. I don't like to do it unless I've got other food for the bees. The milkweed is going off now, so I should have seed pods developing very soon, but the flower heads are drooping and kind of falling apart. So we're nearing the end of the milkweed flowers, but they have been magnificent this year. I mean, I couldn't have asked for a better show. I'm so glad that I sprayed them with that soap spray, because that was definitely the thing that they needed to get them through to now. and I do see ladybugs all over them, taking care of all my bad aphids and things, keeping those in check. So I think that was a really big factor this year in having something for the monarch caterpillars that haven't arrived yet. They're not even out yet. But the tussock moth caterpillars, the milkweed tussock moth caterpillars are out and annihilating some of my milkweeds. So it's great. I mean, that's their host plant too. So, you know, it's good to have them around. The next thing that is doing really, really well is my chard. Man, I've been pulling, I have a little tiny patch of it, maybe about 3/4 of a box. So I'm definitely planting more chard probably in the fall because we've been eating through that. That's our greens right now. The spinach went off before I got anything out of it, and the lettuce just started to bolt. So it's too hot for the lettuce, but the chard is going crazy, and it still tastes okay, so we're gonna go with that. Beets, yeah, I got a few great, small baby beets, which was what I was going for, but I think they need more sun, and the rutabagas too. They definitely need to be in a little bit more sun than what I have. So if I can spare the beds over on that side, I will. If not, it's not super critical to me because the peppers, wow, the peppers. So the peppers, I've been pulling little baby peppers off of those things so that I get more and more of a harvest. I'm telling you, I have pulled off so many peppers. They've been in our salads. I started fermenting some, so it's been really great. And I'm letting a few of them kind of get a little bit bigger so that we can have some appropriately sized peppers. But the little ones are fine for fermenting and even putting on salads. They taste fine. I'm pulling them off so that I get a better harvest later. So the peppers have been great. Most of the spots I put them in did really well. There's a couple up towards the top where I actually think the compost in those beds was too hot because the tomatoes look crummy up there too. So I'm thinking everything in those beds looks awful. I'm thinking some of my compost was too hot this year. So the next great thing in this bed that just finished was the peas. Actually, it's over here. The peas are done now. I'm letting a few pods ripen so that I can have some seeds for fall, but I'm definitely going to be planting some more probably next month to get those started. So that's been awesome. I cannot complain about the little tiny pea harvest that I had, so I'm definitely gonna be planting more, and they seem to do fine in the shady side of the garden. So thumbs up for the Wando pea. Woo, it's zesty. Okay, let's see. Oh, the potatoes. Okay, the potatoes did pretty well. There were a few that got eaten by the deer, that the tops got nibbled off. Sorry. The tops got nibbled off by the deer. And so they actually just stopped growing. So I went and harvested a few of those just to see what I would get. And some of them just completely stopped growing and didn't produce any potatoes. Some of them produced a few little new potatoes, but then they stopped. So I do still have a bunch of potatoes over there that are still growing. The tops were not nipped off of them. They're flowering now. So I'm pretty sure I'm gonna get some potatoes out of those, but it's been so rainy that I don't wanna harvest yet. I'm waiting until we have like a dry spell to actually get in there and see what I've got. The ones I think I have left are my late season ones. So I'm just trying to kind of hang out and see what we've got. If you remember, I planted 4 different varieties, and I can't remember where I put what, because I forgot to put tags in. But I'm fairly certain the ones that are left are my late seasons, because the things I was pulling up, I pulled out my Adirondack Reds, and I think I pulled out the Prada ones, because it was like a light yellow flesh and a sort of light yellow skin. So anyway, I believe that's what I had harvested. I definitely didn't harvest pintos. I only got one of those, and I stopped as soon as I grabbed it because I realized I was into the pintos, and those are still going. So I'm leaving the ones that are flowering and still going, and we'll get those later. Okay, another awesome thing that happened was the raspberries. Wow, the raspberry patch after harvest has gone bananas. It's gone raspberries. I don't know what you want to call it. The stems are just going all over the place. I'm gonna have to prune back, definitely in the fall, so I'll probably wait to do that, but they are going all over the place. So I'm very excited because it looks like I'm gonna have a really good raspberry year next year, which my harvest did suffer this year because I went in and cleaned stuff out, and I accidentally took some of my raspberries out in the process. But I have a ton of new stems, so I'm looking forward to a good raspberry harvest next year. And then we also have the wineberries, which if you don't live in, along the East Coast, you may not have these. Wineberries are an invasive species here, and they're cane fruit, just like raspberries and blackberries. And I have them here on this property. I tend to cut them if they're in the way of other things, especially if they're in the way of my black raspberries. So I don't have a ton of them that I cultivate here, but I know where to get them. They're just another great berry. I wouldn't advise installing them if you don't have a big enough space for them, because they will kind of take over, similar to the way that blackberries and black raspberries will. So just be aware of that. I don't even know if they sell them or not. You can usually just dig up a cane and take it home. Probably nobody's gonna stop you because it's an invasive plant. So I believe they're from Japan. I'm pretty sure they are. But very tasty, excellent. You can make pies out of them just like you do with raspberries and blackberries. I usually mix them with my other berries. They're very tasty with strawberry, especially. So, excellent, good fruit to eat. Very healthy. There's nothing wrong with them at all. Go ahead and eat those. So that's it. That's all I got for you. It's a, really quick garden update, and you get to see some of the great stuff that's growing. And as always, you can send me a message, let me know what you're thinking, let me know if you have questions. And I think the best place to find me is actually on Instagram and of course here on YouTube. So subscribe if you aren't subscribed yet, and find me a Dirt Hippie again on Instagram. Like I said, post daily on there, pretty much daily. So yeah, come on over for some content there. And with that, I'll catch you outside.